57-year-old American doctor's shocking affair with 24 women from a mysterious Filipino tribe. What makes a man abandon everything he built, his family, his reputation, his entire life's work, for something so wild, so unfathomably strange, that it sounds like folklore? I found the journal buried beneath my father's old belongings, wrapped in a cracked leather pouch that smelled of sea salt and mold. Inside were names, 24 women, all marked with dates and tribal symbols I couldn't decipher. At first, I thought it was fiction. Then I saw the photos, aged, sun-worn Polaroids of my father, smiling beside women dressed in traditional Filipino garments. He wasn't just a doctor. He was a legend to them. My name is Gerald Curtis. I'm a 32-year-old architect living in Boston, and until 6 months ago, I believed I knew everything about my father, Dr. Gerald Curtis, a celebrated humanitarian physician who passed away suddenly from cardiac arrest. He was respected, admired, and posthumously praised in the press for his work in underdeveloped communities across Asia. But after his funeral, I was tasked with clearing out his cabin in rural Vermont. It was the place he always called his sanctuary, though none of us were ever invited. It had always seemed like his retreat after long stints abroad. I assumed it was where he came to write medical journals or recover in peace. The place was thick with silence. Dust coated every surface like snowfall, and the faint scent of camphor lingered in the wood. As I rummaged through drawers and chests, I found dozens of notebooks and scrapbooks filled with sketches, letters, and Polaroids from the Philippines, specifically a region called Palawan. A few entries were dated between 1993 and 2006, during the years he was supposedly working with Doctors Without Borders. But the most haunting discovery came in a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. A weathered leather journal with a crude tribal sun carved into the cover. Inside were pages and pages of personal confessions. I should feel guilt, but I don't. They call me EPO, which means the chosen one. I didn't ask for this. They came to me. There were 24 names. Beside each, a date, a child's name, and a mark I couldn't recognize. My hands trembled as I flipped through the final pages. One letter was addressed to me. If you've found this, it means I'm gone. And you deserve to know the truth, every part of it. I had to see it for myself. 2 months later, I stood in the humid air of Palawan, Philippines. The jungle was vibrant and pulsing, like it was alive, breathing with secrets. I had hired a local guide named Marco, who was hesitant when I showed him the journal. His eyes flicked over the tribal markings, and he muttered something under his breath. "You shouldn't go," he warned. "These aren't just villages. These are sacred places." They call him the Ghost Doctor. The trek took 3 days, through steep trails, thick with vines and whispers of wind. Finally, we reached a secluded valley nestled between limestone cliffs. A woman in her late 40s greeted us at the edge of the village, her gaze fixed on the journal in my hands. "EPO's son," she whispered. "He said you would come." Her name was Aluna, and she was the first. Her photo had been in the journal, dated 1993. She led me into a hut woven with banana leaves and bamboo, where she offered tea made from bark and ginger. As I sat across from her, I noticed children peeking in through the doorway, each of them with light green or hazel eyes, like mine, like his. "Why?" I asked, barely able to speak. "Why him?" Aluna placed her hand over mine. "He saved our people. There was a fever. Many died before he came. But he didn't just bring medicine. He brought hope. And then our elders chose him. A prophecy. The outsider who would father the next generation." I laughed. It sounded insane, like something out of a novel. But she was serious. He didn't seduce us. We came to him. We asked. It was our way to preserve the strength. And he stayed many times. Over many years. I met more of them. Women who smiled gently, children who called me Kuya, meaning older brother. The deeper I went, the more I began to question the man I thought I knew. Had he betrayed us? Or had he simply lived a life I was never meant to understand? Then came the twist. In a nearby village, I met a boy named Elias. He was 13 and carried a notebook almost identical to mine. "He writes like him," said one of the elders. "He is like his father." Elias showed me the pages. Inside were sketches of machines, bridges, homes, sustainable buildings. I stared at the boy. He was me in another form. That night, I stayed in Aluna's hut. The fire crackled beside us, casting dancing shadows against the walls. My head spun with questions. The journal, the women, the prophecy, it all felt surreal. But the children were real. Their laughter, their eyes, their dreams. My half-siblings. My father's legacy. Why didn't he tell us? I asked, looking up at the stars. Aluna was quiet for a long moment. "Because you wouldn't have believed him." She handed me another letter, this one folded tightly and sealed with wax. "Daniel, there are things you will struggle to accept." I was torn between duty and discovery, between medicine and mythology. But in the end, I chose both. What happened here was not just a scandal. It was survival. These people chose me, not because I was a doctor, but because I listened. I stayed. I tried to live 2 lives, and I failed. I failed your mother. I failed you. But I love them too. And that truth will haunt and heal you, depending on the day. I didn't expect you to forgive me, but I hoped you'd understand. Find Elias. Guide him. He has your mind and my heart. Dad. Tears spilled down my face. All my life, I thought my father was distant because he was too busy saving the world. But maybe he wasn't distant. Maybe he was divided. And in both lives, he gave everything. The next morning, I watched Elias sketch by the river. He looked up at me and smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. "Will you stay, Kriya?" he asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. I returned to Boston 2 weeks later. My world had shifted, not in the loud, cinematic way you see in movies, but subtly, deeply. I walked into my apartment, placed the journal on the bookshelf, and sat by the window, staring into nothing. The city was loud, mechanical. It felt small now. My mother never knew.
Or if she did, she never said.
Maybe she made peace with the pieces of him she could hold on to. Maybe she loved only the part of him she could understand. But I knew. I had seen the other side, and I couldn't unsee it. I still text Aluna. I send Elias books and videos. I'm helping him apply for an international scholarship to study engineering. I haven't told anyone here, not my friends, not my girlfriend. Some truths aren't meant for crowded rooms. They belong to quiet fires and jungles that breathe. Sometimes, when I can't sleep, I pull out the photos, the 24 women, the children, my father's face. And I wonder, was he a monster? A messiah? Or simply a man who fell into a world too strange and beautiful to leave?